Good morning, my dear students. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to the webinar. WGSHA is always committed to provide quality education. On behalf of ITC and Mahe leadership team, I would like to thank each and every one of you for participating in our selection process. In the past 10 days, Team WGSHA had an opportunity to interact with you all through video. We understood that each and every one of you have unique talents and passion. We appreciate your responsibility towards your career. I'm sure that you all have tremendous potential to become great leaders in your professional career. I would like to compliment your parents for their commitment towards their wards. WGSHA over the past 34 years, a very long journey in the hospitality and culinary education, has achieved several milestones. Today, WGSHA ranked number 2 nationally and 26 globally. This has been possible only because of our stakeholders. WGSHA's global visibility is burgeoning day by day. It is mainly due to our alumni occupying senior leadership position in the global hospitality and the culinary industry. To witness this, we have invited Chef Vikas Khanna, 6 times Michelin Star chef, author, celebrity chef, restaurateur, director and producer, and more than the alumnus of WGSHA. It is my pleasure to introduce to our proud alumnus chef Vikas Khanna. He graduated from WGSHA, Manipal in the year 1991. Chef Vikas has always interest in giving back to his alma mater. He has donated Culinary Museum to WGSHA, which for us is priceless. Our nation is proud of this novel idea. In the days to come, it will be one of the most iconic places in the culinary world. Chef Vikas, irrespective of his busy schedule, always visit our institute every year and spends time with our students. He has been a great inspiration to many of our students as well as rest of the younger generation. Just give an example, as you all know that it is early morning 2 a.m. in local time New York. No matter whichever time zone he is. Now this shows his commitment and dedication to his profession as well as his alma mater. 6 times Michelin Star chef, top 10 chefs of the world by Richest Well News Gazette Review, the first chef to receive 2 honorary doctorates, Rising Star Chefs by Star Chefs USA, James Beard Foundation Award nomination for his book Return to the Rivers in 2011, GQ India Man of the Year 2012 by GQ Magazine, featured in the list of Sexiest Man Alive by People Magazine November 2011. He was voted New York's hottest chef in a poll conducted by the New York Eater blog, Access to Freedom Award in 2009, the Shining Star Award from Just One Break International, and proclaimed from the New York City Council for his outstanding contribution to the city, and was chosen New Yorker of the Week by New York Association, featured on cover of Men's Health India magazine in 2012. Vikas Khanna produced and directed The Last Color, an Indian feature film. I request Vikas Khanna to share journey to you all on behalf of ITC and Mahe leadership team, WGSHA, and I take this opportunity to welcome you this webinar, Chef. Over to you, Chef.
Hi everyone. Good morning, India. Well, thank you, Chef, for the introduction. I want to wish you all the best. You know, in the last few weeks, what I have learned in the last few weeks, it's much more different than I ever could think that what food actually means to me. We all know we are struggling with the world's one of the largest epidemics of our times, and this is the true test of leadership. And as chefs, we have a much bigger responsibility than to be running those perfectly styled restaurants and getting Michelin stars. There's also another part of you which has to be evoked. That is when you see hunger around you. And it all started with a small email in which, people keep sending you emails because accessibility, and somebody sent a scam email, like, it was like a fake image of an Indian ashram where a lot of people were lying on the floor, and somebody said, chefs, they haven't eaten in the last few weeks any food or something. It just touched me so much. But the entire thing was actually a scam to get money from me, and I donated. But when my team saw the picture in the WhatsApp group, and they're like, oh my God, this is an absolutely old image of a Reuter or something. And but that started a movement that we used all our tools, not just to feed our guests who pay for us in the restaurant, but we used all our tools to feed people. Because eventually we owe everything we learn to all these people. We owe it to them because they have kept the food traditions alive in different parts of the country, which we use in our restaurants as techniques or combinations or spices or kind of a signature dishes. So I think what I have learned in the last few weeks has been more shocking for me, in a way that I did not understand food to this level, the gravity of food. So as you jump into hospitality, there's a much bigger need of you in the country. You won't even only become the ambassadors of Indian culture and country to the world. You could be in any part of the world and representing your country, and within India also you do that. But you have a much bigger responsibility as chefs and hospitality leaders today in the world. An entire world is looking at us, and these are not the times when you could just be doing station cooking or just be a part of just a small group of people. I think our reach has expanded over the last few decades. When we started, as Chef said, 1991, I joined college. A lot of people didn't know the word chef. Even I did not know the word chef. I came to know in Professor Tarakan's class that if you qualify and get educated, you're a chef. I thought I was just there to become a cook. And this will differentiate you as one of the leaders of an institute which I hold so dearly in my heart. And now it's one of the most global places for culinary, production of some amazing leaders in the culinary world. And Chef Thiru, thank you very much for holding the torch. You know how I hold you in such high esteem in my heart. And this is my first time we are doing this video call, and it took us hours to figure out how to get this done. And I hope you can hear me.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please go ahead, Chef.
And I just feel that today our roles are shifting. It's shifting. And the person who's going to be successful is the one who's going to be like a sponge, who will be able to absorb a lot around you. As you will be spending your time in Manipal, you also have to understand that Udupi is the birthplace of some of the most iconic dishes our menus hold. So you are actually in an ancient town, which is like a grandmother town of South Indian cuisine. Your exploration doesn't end in the classrooms. Your exploration leads you to the minds of the chefs who are teaching you, to your faculties, to what is around you. During your trainings in colleges and during your trainings outside on ground in the hotels and restaurants and your travels, everything is going to accumulate you. As Steve Jobs said once in his speech, he said that you have to keep moving forward, and then you look back and connect the dots. So be that sponge, keep absorbing a lot. And I think it's really great, fortunate moment for you guys to absorb new flavors and to be sensitive to the cultures around you. And that could be a part of your books in future. It could be part of your restaurant consultancies or ownership of your hotels or your television shows or anything you would excel in life. These dots are going to help you. Chef, क्या करना है? कोई question पूछेगा क्या करना है? How does it work?
Yeah. Yes, share your journey right from your workshops, and then industry. Then could you please just share to this budding chefs?
So I think my journey was pretty strange because when I left college, I did not get selected in campus interviews, and that was okay. I went to my elder brother in Bombay, and we figured out to get to Leela's. And I started working in the banquets in Leela Kempensky. Then I was moved to the 8th floor privilege club to take care of the breakfast. I was not in a specialized place, but I kept moving. Then I went back to Amritsar. I was running my banquet, and then I had a little fall off with the local government there in Amritsar, and I thought that it was a dark tunnel which would not lead me to anything. And I went to America to try my destiny, and I landed in New York. And I've lived in this place for the last 20 years. Moved here in 2000, and I think things changed around us because we learned how to cook in colleges. At that time, we were just doing French techniques and European food. That's what we were learning for. But I had a difficult understanding that why Indian food was not there in the colleges and why Indian food was not taught. And every time I asked them, they said, we are training you to become the executive chefs. But one thing which helped me, my disability of not understanding or grasping those difficult words, what helped me was my fallen in love with Indian food so deeply that I kept exploring it on my own. So now I'm really thankful to Chef Kiru who has started this whole initiative that you will be trained in Indian cuisine equally. You will learn a lot about it. You make the decisions, what you want to excel in. But when I came to America, I had to do almost 34 jobs because I didn't have any confirmed restaurant. This is pre 9/11, so you could get jobs in restaurants just cash or something. So much later after 9/11, I decided, no, I need to do this legally. I need to do this right. And then I got a job in Salam Bombay restaurant. I worked there for my green cards. And then you figured out that food is not restricted to cooking, especially in a country like America. For me to jump out of this space and to reach out to more people where they haven't found any love for Indian food, and it was very unheard of at that time that an Indian restaurant would get a Michelin star, and it was a very rare moment, and then I opened some restaurants in New York, and I was totally broke because they would go out of business again and again. I used to have a small restaurant on Fulton Street near Wall Street, and then I had a restaurant on near Times Square on 54th Street and 8th Avenue, Purnima. That went out of business. I had a cafe at the Ribbon Museum that closed. So there was a lot and lots and lots of failures. And during the 2008, the crash of the market, everything closed. I had a cooking school, which was called Sanskrit Culinary Arts. I had a catering company called Tulsi Caterers, and I had a restaurant called Purnima. Everything closed within a moment of few weeks. And I got into a very deep depression because I thought I've lost everything. And that is, I went to Himalayas. I know that sounds very funny and it sounds very kind of dramatic. But I went to Himalayas, Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, Burma, Ladakh, Pakistan. I started researching. I was just trying to escape out of a failure because anyone I would meet, they will keep telling you that, oh, you failed so badly and oh, you're never going to come back. And then I went to Paris to train, where I was thrown out of a restaurant. And that is when I decided that I'm not going to be just a chef. I have to be adding a tag to my name of the Michelin Star chef because the world responds to that, because that's like the Academy Awards for chefs. And then I focused on just Janoon. For so many years, I was running it, and I'm very proud that we were one of the only Indian restaurants in the list in so many things. But your journey does not end there. You have to use that as a platform to do more. You have to do that platform because today you people, when you graduate, you will have so many opportunities. You can be authors, you can be consultants, you can open your restaurants, hotels. The world is changing very much post coronavirus epidemic, and you will be changing too every single day. And what's happening with us right now, we just closed our entire thing right now. It's a difficult time right now, but I'm sure if I could sustain all that in my life and survive and rise, then I'm going to do this too. We are not giving up. We don't belong to that culture where people gave up. We have to be resilient, even in our failures, because failure is very important. If you see all my graph, every time I failed so miserably is the time when I actually did something much bigger. And even every loss in my life, it could be financial, it could be business, it all led me to something. I kept thinking, because I wanted to stay positive. And even loss of my dad, I was in Varanasi to hide for a few weeks, but which was actually, I wanted to stay there for 2 weeks, but I spent few days there. And that is when I wrote my novel, The Last Color, because my left hand had stopped working. I was going through certain surgeries. Again, a big failure. And you realize that you need to be positive. You, even in this time when doctors told you that you won't be able to use your left hand, and no doctor would attempt a surgery on my hand, and I was like still positive, and I wrote a novel because I could only use one hand. So I wrote a novel, Last Color, and I converted it into a movie in 2020. It was eligible for Oscars, which was absolutely unheard of for somebody's first movie was an untrained filmmaker. I just put my energy into it because there was a time which was, and I like to talk about the dark space when I've overcome that. So just remember that it's very important. Failure is a very important, crucial part of it. And I remember going to a small place in Old Delhi, and I saw a lot of Indian utensils on the street, and I bought some, and I did carbon dating on them in America, and they were 300 years old, and it just crushed me. And I said, you know what? This is a part of our kitchen heritage. This is an extension of how we cook, our utensils. And that led to me, that brokenness led me to creating an entire museum. And then we figured out that entire India is represented in that museum in every form of how we use, how we cook, how we measure, how we actually store. Everything you see in the museum, it's like a full journey through Indian culinary kitchens, and how I kept expanding in my space. And what really helped me, you're going to find this funny, was failure. What really helped me, because if I was comfortable in Amritsar, I would have never moved out to US. If my restaurants were doing well and I was not failing again and again, I would not try different ways to express myself. If my English was so terrible that I had a kind of fear, if people did not make fun of this, I would have not gone out and started learning English at this age. And it's amazing that people said that, you know, Indian cookbooks should be restricted to just $5 curry books. And eventually I wrote the world's most expensive cookbook. And now I'm working on a book which is going to be even more expensive than Utsav. It is about all the Indian holy places. It could be Sikh gurdwaras or temples or Jain temples or synagogues or Mother Teresa's missionaries, or it could be dargahs where they serve food as a way of connecting to the community, like a prasad. So entire book is done on that, and that got me. The inspiration came from being raised in Amritsar and Golden Temple, and being around Krishna Temple in Udupi. If I was not constantly looking for new ways and not so curious, I would have missed visiting Krishna Temple all the time. And thanks to Chef Tiru, every time I visit Manipal, I have never ever woken up on the first day without going to Krishna Temple to pray. And I think that is something very necessary right now for the chefs, because you are the next generation who will represent the country. You have to be curious about exploring more of yourself. कोई सुन भी रहा है? मुझे तो पता नहीं how does it work.
Yes, because all people are.
Yeah, since we have invited as an invitation, so we requested students to send questions, but I appreciate all the students for asking questions, and there were about 400 odd questions that have been asked. But we will be asking, you know, a couple of questions. We know that it's early morning, it's 2:30 there, and so the first one. Why did you choose WGSHA, and what was your experience while studying in WGSHA?
I chose WGSHA because my Chacha ji took me to Mora Sheraton in Delhi. I was 16 and I'd never been to a 5-star hotel. So he took me to Mora Sheraton, and he took me to the 24 hours buffet. So the only food I had known was the food I was cooking and selling with my mom and grandmom. It was paneer pakora, bhature chole, typical Punjabi kulchas. So that was the only food I thought existed in the world, and the food we ate at home. Restaurants, we never used to much involved because, you know, lower middle class and middle class families. So I had not seen food like that beauty. And my Chacha ji said that, you know, they have a cooking college, and that is where you get trained. You can't be just passionate about something. There's discipline and there's dedication, and then there's training. which have to be part of this. And chef, that thing led me to my obsession of joining WGSHA as a 6th course. And I didn't do very well in the group discussion and all, but I was just so shy to speak publicly. But I think then Manipal shaped me because I was getting exposed to South Indian flavors in the in the mess and in our hostels and around me in the local places. College was important because it was adding discipline to me. You can't be passionate, you have to be disciplined. And discipline is much more important than passion. I know this sounds horrible because a lot of people use the word passion too much. I'm passionate about cooking because this cauliflower, I'm so passionate about the seasonal produce. But you have to be passionate about discipline. Discipline is important, and college taught me discipline. It's बहुत डंडे पड़ते थे मेरे को. I didn't do very well. I did well in practicals, but in writing and all I didn't. But I had an amazing rapport with some of the faculty, and they put me training in the 24 hour. It was called Cosmopolitan Restaurant that time, and I worked with it, and it was like good. That training helped me to understand discipline, and that is what college did to me the most. And if you see now, there's an extreme level of discipline in my work. I will deadlines and everything. There's no excuse. No excuse. If the book has to be submitted, a restaurant has to be open, testing menus, everything has to be part of discipline.
Thank you, Chef. The next question, what was your experience as a celebrity chef in White House and the Rashtrapati Bhavan?
So White House, I have known former American President Barack Obama because I did some fundraisers in Chicago, and when he was elected, it was a big moment of change happening in America, and I was very proud because he was extremely fond of Indian food, and he always thinks that he can actually cook dal and keema, and every time he'll challenge me for that. And then once I was invited there was an initiative to represent the word seva, and they asked me, what does the word seva mean? So it was very difficult. Service is a very small word because we do service in the restaurant, hotels. Seva word was much bigger than that. So I was invited to the White House and I said, I'll come to talk about this because I'd made a small documentary called Holy Kitchens. And this was on July 20th, 2011. So I put an entire spread of food and they said, what's the theme? I said, this is what Mahatma Gandhi, I would have cooked for him if he was alive. So we did menus like that, which was like thoughtful and represented a very global image of India. And then later, many times I was invited to the birthdays and to events and to re-election fundraisers. I did so many, hosted for them. But Rashtrapati Bhavan was amazing because there were just a few people which were invited to have dinner with on the same table with President Trump and Prime Minister Modi and President Kovind. And I think there were two people who were artists in there, and rest everybody was political figure or they were all in politics, except for me and A.R. Rahman. We were the only two artists they invited who represent the Indian arts as a soft power. So it is amazing that when President of India introduced me to President of America, and Prime Minister, I had cooked for President Trump when he was not the president. He was just working for his real estate in New York, and he said, "Oh, this is the New York guy." So that was interesting, and he said, "This is my guy." To be divided between two greatest cultures, of course, both are going through strange challenges right now, but to be representing that as a soft power, I think it's amazing.
Sure. The next question would be, what is the greatest fear you had to overcome to get where you are today?
I think the greatest fear for me was not professionally. It was me leaving Amritsar. And the greatest fear was leaving parents. That was my greatest fear, and still is. My mom is in Amritsar as we do this call, and she's by herself in Amritsar. That's my greatest fear. I'm not insecure of failure because I failed way too much, and I'm not insecure of bad press, and I'm not insecure. I don't think so. Those things matter to me after some time. My biggest fear was, I faced it, was losing my dad, and because everything else I have figured out, I'm much older than most of the people on this call, is that you can replace most of your businesses. It's few decisions you take right and you reinvent yourself. You can recover losses. You can recover. People forget about sometimes you fall off badly, so you get badly trolled and all those things happen. You can recover because you overwrite that memory of people. But the only fear is the losing parents is the biggest and the only fear which matters in this life.
Next question. What was the toughest situation you had to face in the kitchen?
I think toughest situation was a comment made by a chef in France when I cooked for him. I just posted it on Instagram a few days back. When I cooked for him, I was not allowed to touch cooking utensils. I was only cleaning, and this is 2008. I was only cleaning or deliveries were not there. I was just helping the delivery guys and the dry storages. And the chef said that, anything is brown hands touch, I will never eat it. And that is one of my biggest thing that moment I was pushed that nothing should stop me from getting a Michelin star, because if these people consider that's the epitome of cooking, then a brown guy should not stop, because if they refer to your brown hands. And I think that was my very big challenge, which I had to overcome. And I had to, not for the world, not for anyone else, it was to myself, more importantly, to myself, that when we cook, we can actually excel anyone in this world, and we shouldn't be restricted from where we come from as artists and as chefs. We shouldn't be restricted. That shouldn't be the only segment which we should be. So it's okay to go through that. It was a very dark time of my life, and I left Paris, and then I said I'm not coming back to Paris till I'm going to get a Michelin star, because it's one of my favorite cities to reinvent food all the time. All the time, I see something so much new happening, so much of techniques, and so much of new ways to represent food, and new ways to represent a similar dish, which is a classic dish. Then many restaurants will have their own formats and how they do elements on a plate and plating and everything. So that was at that time it seemed like it's the end, but it was, as I said, it's always the beginning of something much more powerful.
Yes, chef. The next question, in hotel industry, what are the changes we have to face after this COVID-19 pandemic?
I wish I could answer that. It's breaking me, because so many chefs and so many people who work for me, everybody's right now sitting in their houses. There'll be huge, one of the biggest hits which is going to be taken by the restaurant industry, hospitality, social distancing. The New York Times yesterday had an article that how the new protocols for the restaurants is like all the staff wearing masks. There should be 6 feet distance between 2 tables. All those things, and the new rules coming out in the kitchens for protection. It's going to be a tough time for the restaurant industry in the next few months, and let's see which chefs actually lead the way for us. And I think it's good. It's going to reinvent entire circle, and it's sometimes not good to predict the future, because the uncertainty is what keeps pushing you. So right now we are all in a phase of reinvention, and every restaurant, everything what I'm doing is going to get reinvented post epidemic, and I know that, and I'm ready for the change, because I work much better in chaos.
Yeah, we would like to thank you for your time and valuable advice to this budding hospitality. And
I wish you all the best. You know that
you,
who's
sir.
cheering for you the most when you create a milestone in your careers. I will be the one who will be cheering the loudest wherever I'll be.
Thank you, chef, and thank you, students, and being a wonderful audience. And we will try and create more opportunities for you all to interact with the chefs in due course of time. Thank you.
One
Thank you
second,
once more.
international flight. Everybody knows where I'm coming. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, chef.